So this morning we're going to talk a little bit about couplers. And couplers really are very important in the model railroad world because it's what we join our cars together with or couple them with. We make a joint and that puts our train together, then we can move around our railroad. So there's a lot of things that deal with couplers and making couplers work and function correctly. First of all, we want them to look good. And in the last few years, a lot of corporations, a lot of companies that produce couplers and freight cars have made great strides in making couplers look a lot better. And I thank everybody who's been involved in that, all the other companies along with Class1modelworks.com. One of the things at Class1modelworks.com we've done is since we put actual brake hoses, brake lines in our cars along with the glad hand and the air hose on the end, we have opted to not do the trip pin underneath our coupler. The trip pin is historically the piece of metal that goes down. It's a magnetic trip that goes down and curves out horizontal with the rail head. So when you run the car over a magnet, it will uncouple the car automatically. A lot of people now that are operations oriented are using picks where they stick the pick down into the coupler and open the couplers up with a pick or a screwdriver or whatever. So they're not using that trip pin anymore. We have opted here not to deliver cars with the trip pins because there are a lot of people that aren't using them anymore. And again, our reasoning was that we're putting really nice, highly detailed glad hands and air hoses on our cars. However, there's going to be a lot of people out there that are like, well, hey, we're still using magnetic uncoupling ramps. And that's great too, because in our cars, we've designed a standard coupler pocket that will work with the KD number 5 or the KD number 158 or any of the other types of couplers that are designed to work in a number 5 box. So we're going to show you today how to change out, if you're wanting to, how to change out our stock couplers with a KD number 158 coupler. All right, so it's a very easy process to change out a coupler, but I want to run over it so it allows people to know that you can actually do it. So here's a KD 158 whisker coupler, and you'll see here's the coupler pin we're talking about. A lot of people are still utilizing this on their railroads. And that's a fantastic thing. It's a great operating tool. Again, we chose not to put that on because we really like to have the super accurate air hose on our car. So we're going to show you how to change this out. Incidentally, there are many companies that make couplers. There's all kinds of companies. And again, we have a standard number 5 box built into our car, which has been the de facto standard in the model railroad and HO scale model railroad world for a long, long time. So these cars were designed to accept any of those couplers. So if you're wanting to change the couplers out, it's quite simple. You're gonna flip the car over onto the box that we provide. And we provide this box not only to ship the car with, but also to allow you to do maintenance to the car. And one of the reasons that it's important to put the box into the car is so you don't break off all the grab irons and handrails and all the things that are on the car. It allows the car to sit on the box itself. Now, you can also use a container. If you've got a container around, you can flip the container upside and put the car on it as well. But if you don't happen to have one, we provided the box, this cardboard container, just for this purpose to maintain. So let's get back to the exciting part. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the truck off. This is fairly standard. There's a Phillips screw right here in the middle of the truck. Use a Phillips screwdriver of appropriate size and just basically get in and turn counterclockwise until that coupler centering pin, which is the screw, comes off the car. I like using a magnetic screwdriver or a screwdriver that's been magnetized so the screw itself will stick to the screwdriver. That makes things a lot easier if you've got that attraction between the screwdriver and the screws themselves. So set the screw where you can find it, then we're just going to gently kind of pry the truck off. We're going to set the truck next to it. Then we're going to look down inside the car and you can see the number 5 box right here. And again, it has a Phillips head screw in it. And that's what we're going to be taking off, to take the lid off, to remove our coupler and to replace it with another brand coupler. So pretty straightforward. Again, we're just going to remove a Phillips head screw, pull it off with the magnet. So after we remove the screw from the number 5 box, we've designed the car so the entire box will slide out the end of the car easily, which is super handy. And then we'll pop the box lid off just by kind of rotating the coupler. And we've got the coupler and then we've got the phosphor bronze spring. A quick tap, will usually a tap or maybe using your screwdriver or whatever will dislodge the phosphor bronze spring from inside of here. The nice thing about the KD couplers is the 158s and several other designs have little teeny whisker springs in them, so you don't have to put a phosphor bronze spring back in. So we're going to put that back in there with the coupler lever hanging down. We're going to snap the box back together, and then we're going to do a quick test to make sure it centers. And it looks to me like it's centering beautifully. We're going to take that and we're going to slide it back into the opening on the car like this. Take our magnetic screwdriver, grab our screw, line it up with the screwdriver, take it, put it back in the car, and screw the car. Now this is an important, very important part of any coupler. You don't want to over tighten this, because if you over tighten it, what you end up with is the coupler will not rotate freely within the box. So you want to tighten it enough that it's going to stay in place and hold, but you don't want to tighten it so tight that the coupler then cannot rotate freely in the box. Okay, the coupler is now in, and we're going to finish the process, we're going to go ahead and drop the truck in place and grab the bolster truck screw. Same thing, we're going to line it up on the end of our magnetic screwdriver, take it, put it into place, screw it into the car, and to use a French word, voila, we now have a coupler replacement on our car. But there is one more thing, and that is we want to make sure that the coupler is adjusted correctly. And there's basically two adjustments that are important to do. The first is the overall height of the coupler, or the height of the coupler from the head of the rail. And the second adjustment is the trip pin itself and where it's lined up with the rail itself. So in order to do that, we are going to use a piece of track. Bring it up here, plop it in place. Now in your shop, you should have a short piece of test track that you use on a regular basis to test your equipment. And it's very important, and it can be 18 inches long or whatever, but it's extremely important to have. And the reason is Katie and several other companies make very nice test stands that sit on the top of the rail that allow us to test a couple of things in the car. Now this one happens to be really pretty much spot on, because we designed our car with very tight specs around the specified NMRA/Katie coupler height specifications. If this were to be off, in other words, if this coupler would be off and wouldn't be adjusted well, what you would see would be that the coupler itself would not line up with the test coupler. This is the test coupler, and the trip pin itself would either be too low or too high. But as you can see here, the number 158, if we couple it right on here, you'll notice it really is in pretty good shape. In other words, the coupler height's perfectly, the coupler is lined and down underneath. The coupler trip pin is not hitting on the coupler test, height test. You'll notice on the test stand here, there's a little teeny lip down here. And this lip is what we're going to be looking at with that coupler trip pin. We don't want that to catch on that, because obviously if that was catching on that lip, it's going to catch on all your grade crossings, it's going to catch on all your closure rails on your turnouts, and that turns into a nightmare. Now, if, for happen chance, this car or any car that you do a coupler change out on, but in this case the TWF10, which we're talking about, the couplers are off, you may have to shim the coupler a little bit high or a little low by buying a different type of coupler or something like that. But our cars were designed spot on, so you probably are not going to ever have to worry about the coupler height issues with a Class 1 Model Works car. So that's how you do it, fairly simple. You can do it in, I don't know, probably it took us, what, 5 minutes maybe to do. It's a great thing to do if you're wanting to change your couplers out. Again, the couplers that are delivered with the Class 1 Model Works cars are Katie coupler compatible. We call them knuckle coupler compatible. They work beautifully and perfectly with the Katies, but if you want that trip pin, that's the process to get it. So the TWF10s are available at class1modelworks.com. Click the link below to pick one up today. There's 3 variations. One of them is sold out, unfortunately. The other 2 are still available, but are getting low in stock. So hop online today and pick one up. It's an extraordinary car.